welcome back to Beyond the Veil of Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. Happy Thursday, everybody. Hope your week is going well. We've got another video. We're going to be talking all about Venus's ingress into the sign of Aries. If you guys like my content, you want to see more of it, click the bell button below, subscribe to the channel. That way you're alerted as to when we have new astrological content coming on. We're here every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. Sharing is caring. It helps the channel grow. Let me know, do you have a natal Venus in Aries? And how are you feeling with all of these planets in Aries this week? We're going to be taking a look at the time period of April 4th through the 29th, 2024. I'll be talking all about Venus's trek through the sign, the most important aspects she'll be making, a little bit of a profile on Venus in Aries, and then we'll be talking about how this is going to be impacting each of the 12 rising signs. Well, okay, so late tonight, this evening, we're going to see Venus's ingress into Aries. For some of you guys, it'll be the early morning, so make sure you soak up the last bits of that Venus and Pisces goodness before Venus trades in her seashells for some thigh-high red leather boots. Definitely a different feeling, and it's going to be really interesting to see this ingress as Venus rules the South Node in Libra. So before we talk about this ingress, let's talk a little bit about how the Venus in Pisces story ends. Obviously, in recent weeks, we've seen Venus go through its exaltation in Pisces, very watery, emotional, romantic, creative. And the finale is actually this Venus conjunct Neptune that we actually saw yesterday. So for some of us, this has been feeling inspired. It has been about creating and designing and some kind of connection to Venus in a more kind of etheric sense. For others, it's materialized as not seeing relationships so clearly, getting bamboozled or catfished, money going missing, people ghosting. Obviously, I'm hoping that's not the case, but there's definitely been some really dramatic shakeups in love and money, as Venus has been the dispositor of Jupiter and Uranus. So that conjunction is growing closer day by day as we get closer to the exact conjunction on April 20th. But you want to think about what's kind of wrapping up, what's finishing, where Venus is kind of trading in, like I said, that water element for a fire element. And now she is going to kick the door in, much more active, much more passionate, much more external when it comes to love and relationships. So think about what's been kind of going on behind the scenes. Now we start to see Venus come into Aries. And like I said, that'll be happening later this evening in the late PM hours on the 4th. So Venus in Aries, right, is an astrological placement that brings a unique blend of passion, independence, and assertiveness to all of our love and financial matters in the next month. In this position, Venus, the planet of love, beauty, and money, is influenced by the fiery and dynamic energy of Aries, which is the first sign of the zodiac. Aries is traditionally ruled by Mars, so we see Venus, the goddess, move into like warrior mode, right, where she is much more active, dynamic, and fierce. And this is about, themes revolving around the behavior of our relationships changing, our spending habits, what we're consuming. Wherever Venus goes is where we find pleasure. So whether you just want to learn about this transit or you have this natal placement, one of the biggest themes that I find with Venus in Aries is passion and intensity. Because Venus in Aries individuals are known for their intense passion and enthusiasm in relationships, they're highly driven by the excitement of the chase and the thrill of new beginnings. Aries is seen as an archetype that's not just about the warrior, but also the hunter. So they definitely like the chase. They like going after something new and exciting. And oftentimes they may find themselves kind of jumping into relationships or getting enticed or kind of excited about the potential of new love affairs. That's because Aries is a cardinal sign. So think of it as striking a match. And this is the very first beginning process of falling in love with something. Now, Aries is also known, being the first sign of the zodiac, for being independent. Because it's ruled by Mars, the planet of action, this placement encourages a strong sense of self-sufficiency and the need for personal space within relationships. Now, just to add a little bit of context, this is especially important when we look at the transits that Venus is going to be making as she'll come into contact with the North Node, which is about loving ourselves and loving ourselves some more. Our focus on our own desires, our own pleasure, our own resources, and she'll reactivate the eclipse with Chiron. For some of us, this can show where being too indulgent and self-focused can actually lead us to separation in relationships. For others, it can be a necessary process of learning to really love and value ourselves just the way that we are. So being unapologetically yourself, I think, is a huge theme with transits through Aries. And this Mercury retrograde is teaching all of us that self-care and self-love go hand in hand. And then obviously we'll see assertiveness. So Venus and Aries people have a tendency to be very direct and straightforward in expressing their desires and their needs. There can be a refreshing trait in relationships, but it can also lead to conflicts if it's not balanced with sensitivity. So because this is a masculine sign, Venus is kind of, transiting through Aries' house, right? And Aries is like, we have fire, we have weapons, we have conflict, we have battle, and for some people, they may like the archetype of sexy, strong, feminine energy. Nothing wrong with that. But I think we're going to be kind of looking at where, Venus sometimes has conflict. She is the planet that deals with our social relationships, our romantic relationships, pleasure, self-expression, and desire, where there is some friction that's kind of going on for us, where we're not really feeling like we're getting the necessary love or kind of pleasure that we're looking for, that there can be some conflicts in actually achieving these things. Now, in love, Venus and Aries individuals are often attracted to partners who can match their energy and their passion. They, value spontaneity and excitement in their romantic lives because they're a fire sign, and they can sometimes have a tendency to lose interest in the relationship if it becomes too predictable or routine. These individuals need to learn patience and compromise to maintain long-term relationships, as their impulsive nature may lead to making hasty decisions. I've observed this a lot with my clients, people who have Venus in Aries or Venus in the first house that can behave very similarly, where they're very quick to go after what they want. And sometimes when they're not getting what they want, there can be a little bit of friction, there can be some conflict. Sometimes even in steady relationships, there may be a little bit of conflict, and it creates that friction where there can be a little bit more like chemistry and obviously making up. And I've also seen this a lot for, people who have it personally. They may fall head over heels very quickly and move into a relationship with someone, and then really have to reevaluate whether or not that's a match for them and if they're getting the necessary freedom that they need in relationships. Obviously, a lot of their personal affection style and their love language is going to depend on the aspects as well as their Mars placement. But I have found that Venus and Aries people have a tendency to be very affectionate and quick moving, and they can also have a tendency to be a little aggressive in how they pursue romantic relationships. Now, in money, similar traits we're going to see because, obviously Venus has connections to finances and values as well. So Venus and Aries individuals are often driven by the desire for independence and self-sufficiency. They're willing to take risks and pursue opportunities that align with their passions and their values. However, at times they may struggle with impulsive spending and the need to develop a more disciplined approach to managing their money. In this case, money can quite literally burn a hole in your pocket. But in other ways, I've seen this materialize as people who are fiercely independent, entrepreneurial, and pioneering in their field, oftentimes also challenging the status quo of what it means to actually be wealthy. And in personal style, well, obviously, they're going to have a very different kind of style preference than the other signs. They tend to go for a very bold and vibrant style, reflecting their fiery and assertive nature. They're often drawn to bright colors, especially red, which is a signature color of Aries associated with Mars. Their fashion choices are often daring, attention-grabbing, which makes them stand out in a crowd. In terms of clothing, they may prefer more modern, edgy, figure-flattering pieces that showcase their confidence and individuality And they often have a tendency to have a little bit more masculine flair, or something that is a little bit more provocative. We can see that definitely with Venus in Aries. But generally, everything that they wear is bold and eye-catching, such as statement jewelry or unique handbags. Now, Aries also represents the face and the forehead. So you can oftentimes see, Venus in Aries, if it's a prominent placement, they can have this very kind of like, warrior-like, serious, mentality, very youthful, but also something that's very feminine and beautiful. So I think of like warrior goddesses, I think of Athena, I think of the archetype of like superwoman, and strong and sexy, hard-working women. Athletic wear is something else that I see for a lot of Venus in Aries placements, or an attraction to women who may be kind of like sporty and independent. Now, their home decor usually is a reflection of their personality as well. I find that they opt for bold colors and modern furniture, unique art pieces that also make a statement, and anything that reflects their strong sense of self and their desire to be noticed. Obviously, Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, so they are going to want to be seen. They want to be seen as the boldest, the fastest, the fairest, I think, with Venus in Aries as well. So with natural traits that we see with this behavior, assertiveness is probably number one, because they're very direct with their communication, and I think that's a strength when it comes to their relationships, but sometimes can be seen as a weakness if they feel like, their needs need to come first in relationships. Sometimes that can cause a little bit of conflict. Pros I would consider is that they are independent, because they have a tendency to really value their freedom in their independent space. And they seek partners who respect their need for personal time, people who are going to love them for who they are, and they're not going to challenge anything in regards to their freedom. They're also known for being very intense and very passionate. Remember, Venus is in a sign that's associated with Mars, which can be about sex. It can be about passion, and they make very enthusiastic lovers, but they can also be a bit impatient and impulsive. Aries is about, what you need, right? Your needs, your desires. So there can be a tendency to be super focused on what they need in a relationship sometimes, and not always be so aware of whether or not that's what their partner actually needs or wants. The other thing to watch for is impulsiveness. I think we will see this, especially as Venus comes into contact with the North Node over the next month. We can be prone to making rash decisions in both love and money matters, which can lead to challenges in maintaining long-term relationships and financial responsibility. But watch for more opportunities for adventure and excitement with this transit. I feel like it's attracting new experiences. And while some of us may feel a little impatient or like we're struggling with commitment, it is possible that this can be a fire that's being lit to kind of, bring back to life certain connections and relationships and make things more sexy, a little bit more passionate. There can be some friction, but friction can sometimes be a good thing because it can help us grow together. Now, the downside is that by traditional terms, Venus is considered to be in detriment in Aries because Venus is placed in the opposite sign of Libra. This is because, Aries is assertive and impulsive, and Aries is naturally at odds with Libra because it's an opposition. So Venus's desires for harmony, love, and cooperation are hard to find within this placement. We may find that we're struggling to express its natural qualities, and it leads to more challenging experiences in relationships and personal interactions. However, I will say the fact that Venus is going to touch with the North Node, Venus is going to touch with Chiron, we're going to see a Mercury retrograde conjunction to Venus. This is the time where I keep finding myself talking to clients and explaining to them that now is the time to be selfish. And I don't mean in like a financial sense. I mean more in a sense of being like, you have to focus on what's best for you, right? You have to love yourself first and be 100% before you can meet somebody halfway. So much of April between the eclipse and the retrograde is, what do I want? Where am I going? What am I doing? And Venus is coming in basically saying, look, we can find our own personal pleasure. We can find our own personal path. We can find this direction and find things that are going to be best for us on an individual level. Is it challenging because it opposes the South Node? You betcha. But I definitely feel like it's a turning point where we're realizing that we can find pleasure and we can find, more harmony when we're in tune with our own authentic self. So I think about that South Node in Libra, guys. Okay, we already had the lunar eclipse in Libra. If you're watching this at the beginning of April, we're between eclipses, so we're still seeing some of that stuff shake out as we come into the solar eclipse on the 8th. South Node in Libra does connect very specifically with undoing karmic ties with other people, okay? Friends, relationships, contracts, partnerships, clients. And the South Node in Libra, the darker side of this is where we've become complacent, where we care too much about what other people think, where we're making personal sacrifices for other people, where we have become lazy or indecisive. And probably too used to checking in with other people before checking in with ourselves, saying yes when we know we should be saying no. The list goes on and on. So I think about how the South Node ruler, right, Venus, is really important because it's basically saying in order to achieve the North Node, we have to be able to look at the past. We need to look at where have the scales been out of whack? Where have things not been thoroughly balanced? Where have we been giving too much to other people? And where are we taking a little bit back for ourselves? So there's a little bit of like the past and the future kind of dancing together. You may feel like you're in limbo with a financial situation or a relationship situation, with a personal style situation. A lot of people are transforming their relationship to their bodies. They're transforming the way that they dress, they look, they relate to others. And it's almost like we're trading in that Libra energy of what it means to be beautiful and aesthetically put together and pretty. And, Libra can be superficial, right? It's ruled by Venus. Taurus is more that natural kind of beauty, something that doesn't need all the bells and the whistles. And Libra can be all of the things that we add, right? It can be like the artist or the designer or the beautician. They come in and they go, you're beautiful, but let's add some highlights. Let's put this, let's do your nails, let's add that. And it can make something so much more aesthetically pleasing and balanced to other people. So with Venus coming into Aries and the connection to the North Node, I think that we're kind of choosing our own personal style. We're choosing to express ourselves or love ourselves differently. And it may be, taking away from some of those old patterns that we've had in relationships. But for many of us, I feel like it's also a time where we're healing relationship karma as well, where we have more of an opportunity to be bold and finally ready to kind of snip from some of those old relationship storylines and go, you know what? It's not that they're leaving me, I'm choosing me, right? It's not that, it's not what relationships just don't work. It's that they're not in alignment with who I am or who I'm becoming. So a lot of it's about reworking the way that we look at self-love. I think it's also going to be re-looking at what it means to be beautiful. I do anticipate with Venus coming into contact with the North Node here that it does talk about challenges in regards to relationships and balance as we are reassessing who we're becoming. We may see some new style changes as well. We might see, style become a little bit more popular, in the next month or so, emphasizing strong women, athletic wear, things that are a little bit more daring, things that are fierce or more masculine. I've always noticed with this transit that we do see like a whole series of people that have like some dramatic haircuts, or they're shaving their head as women, or they're donning some kind of like militant outfit, or we see female like sports stars and athletes that become very prominent here as well. I do think this is going to be a big theme, especially regarding female athletes and competition, because this is all ruled by Mars, and so I think we're going to be hearing a lot about them overcoming accidents or injuries, them overcoming challenges, being a woman or identifying as a woman within professional sports. And it's also, I think, going to be a lot about teaching people that part of, I think, being in a good relationship to yourself means that It doesn't have to be that you look good to other people. You have to feel good within the relationship with yourself, because Venus is about opening up to things. It's like a flower. So a lot of us are going to be opening up to, hey, you know, like there is this thing that I want to do, but I don't know if other people are going to approve of it, or I don't know if other people are going to like, you know, the decisions that I'm making for myself. And we're learning to kind of heal that. I think about the dispositor. So we're going to see the dispositor in two different places. You know, most of this particular transit, Mars will be in Pisces. And when Venus makes her ingress this evening, Mars is approaching a conjunction to Saturn. So this is not a good omen for kicking off the Venus and Aries transit, unfortunately, because Mars is connected to Venus. Mars is coming into a conjunction with Saturn. I do feel like this is going to materialize as a lot of personal crisis for people when it comes to money matters. Because when we see the conjunction between Saturn and Mars, it'll be at 14 degrees. This is a Taurus degree. Taurus rules banking, institutions, food, resources, stability, personal self-esteem. So that conjunction is kind of suggesting that a lot of people are going to be expressing a sense of, you know, not feeling beautiful, or not feeling abundant, or not having resources, or feeling like that they're like lost at sea and they don't know how to get the stability, support, and resources that they need. That mixed in with a solar eclipse and a Mercury retrograde, I think it's going to be a huge record scratch over like the next month or two, where people are going to realize that what they once valued, or what they once put stock in, or thought was valuable, or invested in, or had in the bank, or whatever, is going to prove to be something that I think is not reliable. So I feel personally responsible to tell you guys that a lot of this is not just about, oh, what style am I going to have the next month? Or like, you know, what am I wearing? Or like, how are my relationships going to go? Yeah, superficial Venus things. A lot of this is going to be about money and what money you have access to, and where your money is, and what you're doing with your money, and whether or not you have enough of it, or if you're preemptively focusing on, you know, having cash on hand or making investments differently. I have been blown away seeing some of the, you know, the posts on X in recent weeks. I've seen so many things that I think are just like finally making sense, at least for me. I saw a post the other day where somebody was like, you know, you see somebody's, you know, $60,000 Mercedes, you know, or BMW, but you don't see their, you know, car payment that they're making every month. You see somebody's trip to Bali that cost $10,000, but you don't know about the debt that they had to kind of take in order to get that. You see somebody's like 9 to 5, but you don't really see like the grind that goes into that, and the fact that they're not feeling totally fulfilled. And they're basically advocating for saying, like, just because something looks good, right, on social media, or that somebody's living this luxurious life, Venus, it doesn't necessarily mean it's fulfilling, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they're actually wealthy. It's the facade, right? The appearance of wealth. And so for me, I think this Venus transit with a Mercury retrograde is a lot of people reevaluating and reassessing, do I genuinely value these things? Or have I been valuing these things like cars, money, big homes, you know, like relationship, PR, primarily because we care a lot about what other people think? And I think it's going to create this wave effect over the next month or two, where people are going to be like, I don't need these things, and these are superficial, and I need to be more focused on being a good person rather than looking like I'm a good person, doing good work rather than bragging about what I'm doing, right? So that's kind of one of the ways that I see this. I think that towards the end of the month, when we have Mars's ingress into Aries, we'll see a very short window of time where Mars and Venus are both in Aries, and then Venus will bump and move into Taurus, where both planets are going to be in their domicile. When Venus gets into Taurus, even though she's comfortable there, she's in one of her home signs, she becomes slow, sluggish, indulgent, right? She likes to shop and eat and have her leisure and take her time. Certainly, I will say this is not a time period, right, in the next month, and I've had like dozens of emails about this, to be considering anything major in terms of, you know, beauty treatments. I wouldn't do it during a Mercury retrograde anyway. But considering Mercury will hit Chiron, which can talk about wounding in regards to the phase. When we talk about a solar eclipse, which can be like a wild card where we don't know what's going to happen. And then we're going to see Venus move through, her position kind of where she's not as comfortable. I do not recommend facial surgery at this time. I especially don't recommend it with Mars that's about to be conjunct Saturn. Facial surgery, Botox, microneedling, face tattoos, piercings, all these things, I'd be like, no, we don't want to do that because these are all things that deal with beauty. So when Venus moves through Aries, unless you have, for example, a natal Venus in Aries, or maybe you have a Jupiter in Aries and you have decent aspects, 95% of the time, I cannot recommend that. I would really recommend waiting until we get to, Venus in the sign of Taurus later in the month. Equally, I can say with a retrograde in Aries and Venus going through this sign, we can be quick to cast judgment on what is beautiful or what is valuable or what is attractive. We can be very critical of other people, but I think most importantly ourselves. We can be our own worst kind of enemy and our own worst critic with Venus moving through Aries with all these other energies, and we can feel impulsively like we need to make changes to our appearance or our face or our finances or our body, and then ultimately go, oh, I didn't need to do that. So just some food for thought for those of you guys who are like, when do I get my Botox or my this or that? Like, wait till Venus gets into Taurus. It'll be much better time. And Mars and Aries as well. If you're somebody who knows that you like to go and get, laser peels, or you want to get dermaplaning, or you want to go and get a tattoo or something, wait until we get to next month. It's going to be better timing. I think the other thing that I think about is once Mars gets into Aries, then we've got both of them kind of briefly moving through the same sign. And even though they're not going to conjunct, it still does kind of indicate that this is both of them kind of working together simultaneously. This is making feminine energy rise, right? We're seeing it come through the very first sign of the zodiac. Mars is kind of still behind. So Mars will be behind Venus. So it means that we're going to see a rise of some very prominent, very, very entrepreneurial, some very fierce women. We might be hearing about women connected to the military, women who are journalists, especially with this Mercury retrograde, who are bringing out some very significant information because Mercury's, people who are in kind of communications. And I'm excited to see what that brings, because I definitely think that we could see some people kind of rising up in their fields and being seen for being somebody who is doing something brave or courageous. I think about getting going, even though Mars isn't in Aries yet, we're going to have a little bit more of getting initiated type energies when that ingress happens at the end of the month after the craziness of all the other transits in April. But this is about getting passionate about something. Aries is a fire sign. It's like striking a match and lighting something and watching the flames go up. And then we get to Leo, and that's when we're like, oh my God, this is like everything. Our world revolves around this. So there's a lot of energy about, going after what you love. I've always loved the term, forever, fortune favors the bold. And I think with Venus being in this sign, it's like what you value, what you really desire, what you want to go after. The Sun and Mercury being there as well, that you're talking about your passions. You're actually actively talking about it and participating in it. So a good thing to be asking yourself is, do I love this thing, right? Is it something that I just can't get enough of? You're going to have to look at which house Aries is in, but likely if you're finding pleasure there, or if you're finding that you're having a good time there, it may be something that's showing you like you need to go further in that direction. So this is about being entrepreneurial, fierce with love, taking risks, being daring. You might feel like, relationships or financial situations are just starting up like wildfire out of nowhere. And I think that if you're not feeling that, then you want to lean into, what do I need to do to be able to achieve these things that I'm looking for? What within myself do I already possess that I can kind of like nurture and begin to, kind of work with, so I can bring more of this love or abundance or social kind of abilities into my life. Focus on self-love. This is a big thing, self-love and affirmations. Like I've been telling all of my clients, a Mercury retrograde in Aries is the best time to say, hey, I'm getting up earlier in the morning. I'm setting my alarm, you know, an hour early. I get up, maybe you do your 15 minutes of meditation, you do your affirmations in front of the mirror when you're putting your makeup on or when you're shaving your face. And you tell yourself the things that you need to hear. And you want to use the phrase of I am. So Venus, right? Beauty, right? Relationships, love, abundance, resources. I am beautiful, right? I am worthy. I'm capable. I am strong. I attract relationships easily to me, right? I am constantly receiving invitations to things. Doors are always opening for me. Things are working out for me. This is the kind of stuff that you want to be saying to yourself to bring more of that in. Now, why do I say that? Well, the North Node is in Aries. So we look at Mars as the motivator, and Mars is in Pisces. So it means that we have to be willing to believe, right, that these things are capable. And when we believe it, then it kind of rises and comes into physical form in Aries, and we begin to exude that energy. Also, I think about how, you know, Venus is now the dispositor for Jupiter and Uranus, where we can have some sudden, like, amazing opportunities where there can be almost like this feeling of like lottery winning or striking it rich or getting lucky in some way or having some big opportunity for something to grow. This is opening the doors to abundance. This is opening the doors to financial freedom. Uranus wants to bring freedom and Jupiter wants to make something grow. And so a lot of this shift that's going on with personal values, the financial system, where people are investing their money, if they're investing it in digital currencies, if they're investing their energy in food and agricultural work, that they may say, you know what? This is valuable. Life is valuable. Experiences are valuable. I'm freeing myself from feeling like I need to have things, Jupiter, Uranus, and I'm opening up to where making dramatic sweeping changes with my value system influences how I spend money and ultimately helps me experience more pleasure, right? So watch for this because there's going to be a lot of changes in the way that people look at what it means to be wealthy. I think that, you know, affirmations are so necessary right now to really see some of these things come into fruition. I promise you guys, some of this stuff is going to start materializing as early as mid-May, and then you'll see another wave of this again in the summer. But this is where we kind of get all of our ducks in a row and we start asking ourselves, what do I love? What is going to bring me the most abundance? What's going to bring me the most happiness? And also, how can I learn to cultivate these things within myself rather than seeking that from an external source, like a relationship or a friend or a family member, or feeling like I need other people to give me a pat on the back. It's learning to give yourself your own pat on the back. The other thing that I think about, this is like funny, it's like, I was thinking about Venus and Aries and like the archetype that comes up for me, I think it's like sporty spice. You know, if you guys grew up like I did, some of you guys did, in the late 80s, early 90s, I remember the Spice Girls being like such a big thing, and being a little girl and everybody had their own kind of connection or like their own favorite Spice Girl that they associated with. And while mine was never really sporty spice, but I could see where there can be this shift where we are learning to idolize women who can embody both masculine and feminine energy. Women who can be strong and be athletic and be fierce and be hunting or practicing self-defense or martial arts or be in the military or changing attire and still be feminine, still be beautiful, still exude that energy of Venus. So I think for a lot of us, we are going to be talking a lot about what it means, you know, for femininity and what it means to be considered beautiful. And Aries is an energy that's about being active. So it's kind of funny because, you know, Mars is the ruler of all this and it's conjunct Saturn in the 12th house. And for me, that kind of says, when you strip away all of the superficial things, when you strip away the filters, when you take away, you know, the extensions and the nails and the hair, and when you take away all of these things, and if you're just looking at a woman and she doesn't have all of those extra bells and whistles or anything that can be superficial, right? You name it. What do they bring to the table, right? How are they deemed beautiful without those things? Now, so a lot of people are gonna have strong opinions about this, say whatever you want, but it's about really the beauty coming from your true natural self, inside and out, about, you know, how you show up in relationships and where you're willing to kind of jump in and see that, like, love is a verb. It's not an adjective, it's a verb. It's about love in action. So I think that there may be a movement, like we might see a lot of like influencers and people talking about how they no longer want to filter their body. They're going to show you how they were, you know, filtering things and showing you how, you know, different ways they stand and move and shoot things and lighting. And then they're going to be like, this is creating some unhealthy kind of expectations of women. And like, I don't want to do it anymore. We might start seeing a lot of people who are also like opting to, you know, don shorter haircuts or less makeup or something that's just more get up and, you know, wanting to look like you rolled out of bed and be more natural. I think that's something else that we might see. And lots of discussion, I think, maybe about, you know, where relationships don't work if people aren't being authentic. And if we are getting into relationships for superficial reasons or for with somebody for, you know, vain reasons, at the end of the day, is that a relationship that is it going to work, right? Is it going to work? I think that's the question. So Venus in Aries teaches all of us that we have to work in order to make our relationships work. But yeah, bringing it back to Sporty Spice, I think that we can see that we can, you know, maybe little kids, little girls, women, you know, even men can look up to some of these female figures who are going to be very strong and courageous. And that femininity doesn't have to fit in a one size fits all box. It doesn't have to wear a mini skirt. It doesn't have to have makeup on. It can be something that's naturally beautiful and courageous at the same time. And this is encouraging all of us to be warriors for love. So we say with Mars in Aries and Venus in Libra, you know, all is fair in love and war. You guys are really seeing this with these particular eclipses. But I think right now, this is where all of us on an individual level are realizing that we don't want to fight fire with fire. We don't want to perpetuate the drama, the conflict, the agitation, the anger, the hostility. That the best way to show up to battle is not with a blade, but it's with an open heart. The willingness to say, I'm sorry, let me fix it. You know, what can I do? How can I take action? What do you need? And equally also standing up for those who we love and being a protective force for what we personally value and what we consider to be very important to us. So this archetype of like Athena or like Superwoman, you know, strong women that are protectors, that's something that we're going to be channeling throughout this next month. So let me take you guys through the transits where we're going to see all of the aspects that Venus is going to make. I'll give you my little hot takes on that. And then we will be touching on the 12 rising signs. Obviously, if you're in Aries, sun, moon, or rising, Venus is going to be blessing you by moving through your sign. So listen to all three if you have any Aries placements in your big three, because it's going to show you where she's bringing some kind of sweetness to you in the next month. Now, like I said, late this evening, Venus will ingress into the sign of Aries. So some of you guys will feel this more strongly than others. Obviously, other than Aries, sun, moon, and rising, my Taurus and my Libra risings, because you're ruled by Venus, this will be more impactful for you. So you're really going to want to pay attention to these transits. So it'll happen in the late hours that ingress takes place. And also, if you guys have any like crazy stories about like Venus and Neptune, like let me know, because there can be some really significant Venus-Neptune things going on. So I'd love to hear that just leading up to this transit. And then Venus will immediately off the bat, she will start sextiling tomorrow on the 5th, Pluto. Sextile is a lazy energy, right? You have to work with it. You have to actually actively do something to reap the benefits. So I feel like Venus in Aries being active when it comes to love and relationships is going to kind of play off the transformative energies of Pluto. Pluto in Aquarius can be about transforming the future, transforming the collective. It can be things where we are purging and clearing and like purifying. So Venus is receiving some support from Pluto, and it's like a nod and like a little bit of like encouragement to go after something or to do something in some way. And it's going to be a short but kind of sweet aspect that we're going to see. Then on the You have like a decent amount of time. We're not going to see too much happening here. You will see right before the solar eclipse on the 7th, the moon will cross Venus in Aries as we're coming into the new moon in Aries. And I feel like this is going to be this instinctual knowing that's like, I have to take action with this thing. Hold up, pump your brakes, Mercury's retrograde, solar eclipse, like just give it a little bit of time. Wait until Venus starts coming closer to the north node before you make any moves. Also watch when Mars conjuncts Saturn, because that will have a negative impact on Venus. So this will be on the 9th, just after the solar eclipse. Saturn and Mars hit 14 degrees of Pisces. Venus hits a 6. So this is about health and wellness, and this is about some kind of significant limitation, breakdown. Can be physically, can be psychologically, can be emotionally, but that factored in with Venus at a 6, just after a solar eclipse, and then we have a Cazimi. To me, this is screaming awareness of some kind of health crisis. Unfortunately, that's what I mean. I've been saying this for a very long time on my channel, that the solar eclipse with Chiron is going to perpetuate this, but seeing Venus hit a 6 for me only kind of validates that this is now starting to become, coming into our awareness, basically, whether it's something that pertains to health and healthcare treatments over the last 2 or 3 years, or if it's something that's just now starting up. Aries rules the face and the sinuses. So it could be a lot of people who are talking about having terrible allergies. They're having allergic reactions to things. There can be really a lot of issues with inflammation. There can be a lot of issues also with like sneezing and anything that's about inflammation, cuts, burns, abrasions, things with the face. So be very mindful of this stuff right now, especially, like I said, if you guys are considering any beauty treatments. Cannot recommend that in this next couple of weeks. I cannot. This would probably be one of the worst times actually that you guys could do this. I've had several clients email me and they're like, well, I want to get, like micro needling on my face for the first time. I'm like, no. And if you're like, shit, I already scheduled something, the best way to use this energy is to go and get a consult, right? You can make an appointment, you can get a consult, you can think about it. And I would be very careful even with that, because like I said, we're going to be very self-critical. So a lot of people are, emailing me this whole month, like, getting a report being like, when's the best time to get a nose job? I want to do it in April. And I'm like, no. We want to wait until we get Mars into Aries. So know that you may be feeling super self-conscious right now. It doesn't have to be that there's a health issue for you per se, but you can be very self-conscious about how you look or how you're appearing. And like the truth is that this whole month is about getting more into a flow of like what is natural, right? Aries is natural. I think this has the potential to like bring a movement of like people being like, I'm going to take a photo of what I look like in the morning, or, I'm opting to wear very minimal kind of beauty products or cosmetics because, I want to embrace my natural beauty. So we're going to see a lot of changes with faces, I think, with this. All right, so then we're going to see the next big aspect will be when Venus comes into conjunction with the North Node. That'll be here. And I'm kind of like, I have mixed feelings about this personally, because I know you're going to hear a lot of astrologers that are going to be like, Venus on the North Node, partners of destiny, you're meeting your twin flame. Okay, it's at a 15. The twin flame people are going to go crazy with this because it's a Gemini degree. So it represents more than one person. But I don't think it necessarily means that per se. That could be your storyline. I don't know. I think of, Venus hitting the North Node. And when I see that in a natal chart, these people have come here to learn how to experience love, right? Their South Node is going to oppose Venus, which means they haven't had a lot of it. They crave it. They want partnership. They want to be with somebody. They don't know how to connect in that way, generally. And so it means that in this lifetime, it almost feels like a Saturn energy having Venus on the North Node. It's like, wow, relationships are complicated. How do I deal with people? It's challenging. So Venus coming in conjunction with the North Node, could you meet somebody significant that's part of your destiny? Sure. Okay. But it could also be that turning point where you're like, I love myself the way that I am. I don't want to talk negatively to myself. I don't want to beat myself up about trying to feel or look or behave a certain way that just isn't realistic. It's not authentic and it's not me. And like that in itself could be the lesson and the message, I think, of the Venus conjunct the North Node. Once again, Mars is still the dispositor.
And Mars is 19 degrees in Pisces. So it's saying the one thing that's actually holding us back from our own self-love, our own beauty, our own care and nurturing and value of ourselves is the fact that we have low self-esteem, or, you know, we have a low sex drive, or we are afraid of connecting with other people. And so maybe that Venus North Node could suggest that maybe we're seeming selfish, or, you know, maybe we are isolating ourselves from other people. Why? Because we're afraid to take a chance, you know? I think for some people that there can be this sense of being like, I really want this thing. Like, I really want to call that person and ask them out to dinner. Or, you know, I see that person when I go out to a bar and I want to walk up to them and ask them for their phone number. But like, what if they reject me? You know, there's a lot of that going on with Chiron right now. What if they reject me? So what if they do? Right? But you're going to miss 100% of the chances that you don't take. So it could be love related. It could be money related. But whatever it is saying that there's something that we just feel so passionate about moving forward towards and having and possessing and feeling and experiencing, but doubt is getting in the way, right? It's getting in the way somehow. Yes, you can meet partners of destiny. Okay, sure. And I know a lot of people are going to say that. But I kind of feel like because this is a Gemini degree, it's about how are we talking about ourselves, right? How are we talking about ourselves? And in reality, even in a cynical, being kind of funny, you know, joking around manner, do you find yourself talking badly about yourself or criticizing yourself? Are you making fun of yourself? Are you putting yourself down? And that can be like, you know, funny humor for a lot of people. But I think that in a way, it has a negative vibration for ourselves in general. And so I think that this is a time that to not even be joking about that, to be really, really putting yourself first and your own needs and your self-love above everything, because when you're a better person, you're going to be better to other people, and that is going to have like a ripple effect throughout the collective. So say something nice to yourself on the 17th, okay? Wish for something. Write something down that you're thankful for or appreciative of. Make a list of all the things that you love about yourself. Obsess about those things, not the things that you don't like about yourself. Maybe you find the more that you focus on the things that you do like, the list of the things that you don't like becomes shorter and shorter, and there in turn, you become more beautiful, internal and external. It's that simple, right? It's not rocket science, it's astrology. It might seem like that to some of you guys, but this is like the secret sauce here. Watch out for double trouble in relationships. Right? The North Node is kind of like, it's mysterious. It's going after things that we don't really know. And then we've got this Mercury retrograde in the midst with the North Node, where I'm going to tell you, y'all are going to hear from exes in the next week. It's going to happen. Some of you guys will. Some of you guys will be tempted to reach out to them. Some of you guys will be tempted to see what else is out there, to see if the grass is greener. And you may feel impulsively this drive to go after what you want, or maybe saying what you want just blurts out of your mouth, right? And so we have to recognize that with this retrograde, actions have consequences. Words can hurt. They can do damage. We can say things that can be the straw that breaks the camel's back in certain relationships. So we want to really think things through before we say things or before we do things. Make sure that your actions can back up your words, right? All right, so Venus on the North Node, that's that. And I've read you guys the 15 degrees like a million times, so I'm not going to read you guys the brownies dancing in the sun. Again, just know it's about endings and beginnings. So it may mean that some of you guys are experiencing an ending in a relationship or a financial situation, but when in reality, it's like, no, we're celebrating that this is over because we're moving on to the next thing. Maybe it's me just being a Scorpio, and I have so many planets in Scorpio. I have finally gotten to the point after like 34 years of my life that when something ends, now I'm like borderline, like ready to throw a party and celebrate it. Like I'm talking about a big ending, because I've recognized and realized that those big endings are actually making way for a new beginning. So a job ends, relationship ends, somebody passes, things like that. You know, we never want to deal with these things. But I've learned to look at it and go like, okay, that means something new and something big is coming. And I try to focus more on honoring what has happened, closing the door, and being like excited about the next thing. So some of you guys may have this experience, I think, maybe with this particular transit. Keep in mind also that in the background, Jupiter is coming into conjunction with Uranus. It's going to be like the 19th and the 20th. So she's the dispositor of this crazy, maniacal kaboom in the financial system. It may mean that because of the decisions made within the first half of April, particularly with this transit, there will be some self-made individuals. People who took a chance and made an investment in a stock, who decided that they were going to go and plant a garden, who decided that they were going to go and invest in cryptocurrency, will quite literally be paving the way for future financial success and independence. The question is, where is Aries in your chart? That's where you take the action. Wherever Jupiter and Uranus is in your chart, that's where you get some big kind of blessing or some kind of growth. So you got to look at your chart to understand. But Venus is the dispositor of these two coming together, and it's at 21 degrees, which means it's only going up. There is going to be some significant growth. It's a Sag degree. Okay, so then we're going to see on the 19th, oops, there you go. On the 19th, Venus will conjunct Mercury retrograde. Oh. This is like the X day, okay? Or this is like when the past comes creeping back, or this is when we're kind of like, do I want this person or that person? Do I buy this stock or that stock? Do I splurge on this or do I not splurge on this? And remember that Venus conjunct Mercury is like Venus in Virgo. No shame to Venus in Virgo natal placements. Love you guys. Somebody has to kind of clean up our messes. But Mercury is the mind. Venus is the heart. Those two don't mix. Oftentimes our head and our heart say different things. So when you bring these two together and Venus is in this position where she's not happy and Mercury is retrograding, the positive is we can reflect on the past. We can go, okay, that thing happened. That decision was made. That investment was made. That relationship failed, whatever. And now we're doing Mars. We are letting it go. Don't make me sing you guys the Frozen song because I'm tone deaf. But literally, it's like we're letting it go. No, that window of opportunity has passed. You know, we're letting that go. Mercury can be the phone, it can be emails, it could be a text message, it could be a letter, it could be a conversation. And this is at 17 degrees. So it's about Leo related things. So I'm sure we're gonna hear a lot of people going, well, when I was a kid, you know, we had to have a paper route to, you know, make our money, or we had a lemonade stand, you know, ways that we had to be entrepreneurial and kind of free-spirited when we were younger when it came to, you know, resources. A lot of us are going to reminisce in old relationships. We're going to read through those messages. We're going to, you know, consider reaching out to those people. I would advise you to really think this through before you do that. There can be a swapping of things. So it's also possible, because Mars is between Saturn and Neptune, that some people are like going through breakups or endings of relationships, and you may not know it, but they'll reach out to you because they're kind of clamoring for some kind of security, and they'll be like, oh, you know, how are you doing? What's going on? Because they're looking for that next bridge to kind of glob onto, because they're changing their mind about relationships because they want to be distracted about what's ending or what's not working. Be very careful. In a previous video, I talked about a big data breach that was going to happen during this retrograde. I heard just the other day that supposedly there's like a big one that happened with AT&T. I wonder if this has any connection to that. It's supposed to be with current and previous AT&T wireless users. I don't know if it includes internet, but certainly Mercury is communications, right? And Venus is money. And so I'm wondering if we're going to hear more about transactions, communication, or IDs and connection to finances in certain parts of the world. I think we are going to be hearing about IDs and social credit scores, but it can also be a time where we are like not thinking with our head straight. You know, we're so infatuated with a relationship or rushing into something. We're like, yeah, here, take my debit card, or yeah, you can have my passwords, and that can get us into some trouble. Or this could represent, you know, that there is another data breach that's coming, and it's going to potentially put a lot of people at risk for having accounts accessed. Keep an eye on your money, check your statements, look at your online statements. Make sure there isn't something suspicious going on. I do think that this could potentially be some kind of breakdown when it comes to financial structures and people's ability to have access to things, or there is some kind of like leak. You know, Leo is going to deal with bars. So leaving your credit card at a bar or losing it, you know, letting your partner use your debit or your credit card, and then you're finding out what they spent on things. There could be lots of miscommunications about, you know, raising children and the cost of raising children, and also just squabbles in love. You know, Leo degrees can provide some drama. So that's going to be Aries, 18 degrees per the Sabian symbol, because we round up. That one I have not read to you guys yet. Are you excited? All All right, so Aries, 18 degrees, an empty hammock. The keyword is rumination. The theme is pause. Remember I told you guys, I guess I can't think about it? The symbol speaks to self-confidence and growing awareness that it's time to make a change inwardly, outwardly, or both. And at the same time, there's absolutely no perceived reason or pressure to make one. The image of an empty hammock beautifully illustrates the state of suspension between deciding whether to dash off and do something wild on impulse or retreat to the inner recesses of mind and memory to meditate, reflect, or ponder. The hammock is empty and waiting. The decision is yet to be made. On a practical level, the symbol alludes to a static moment of hesitation or pause just before something happens or someone starts the ball rolling in one direction or another. At its highest, it represents tranquility, poise, and harmony. Watch for cowardice or laziness and indecision. The accent is on contemplation, reorientation, transition. You may feel that a change is needed, but you're more inclined to take a wait-and-see approach. The mood is one of anticipation and suspense. Your greatest advantage lies in being patient. Timing is key. Pay attention to unusual convergences and signatures that'll tell you when it's time to take action and what kind of action you should take. Guard against failing to act when you should, or delaying a decision until it's too late. Reflection, pondering, meditation, suspension, waiting, pause, hesitation, balance. And in the background, Mars is the ruler. And it's right between Saturn and Neptune. So it's like, I don't know if I want to do this. Is it going to work out? It's going to, what if it falls apart? What if it dissolves? What if you take a step off a sidewalk and get hit by a bus tomorrow? Obviously, we don't hope that happens, but you get what I'm saying? Nothing is promised to anybody. No one isn't promised to anybody. So Aries teaches us we have to live in the now, not in an irresponsible way, but make decisions in the now because you're kind of creating your future. So I see this as like a pivotal moment, and like in the back of my mind, I can't help but laugh because, well, Jupiter is conjuncting Uranus when this happens. This is about the market, 17 degrees. This is the day that we see the big, Bitcoin halving, and it's going to represent this massive shift in awareness with a lot of people about realistically how valuable this may be. Okay, not a financial advisor. But it's corresponding during the same time. And so I think you're going to see some people who are going to be like, oh my God, this is crazy, or I should have gotten in on this, or like, I don't know about it. And there's going to be a lot of back and forth discussion about it. Nobody can predict the future even with that, but it's going to be interesting to see what the prices are going to be after this point, because it's at a critical point in one of the 4-year cycles that it has where automatically it becomes more and more valuable because it becomes more scarce, right? Or at least the mining does. So there's that. So I think there's going to be a lot of talk about this stuff, and there's going to possibly be some people who are going to be like, on certain exchanges, I'm trying to buy it, I can't, or I'm trying to put money in and I can't, and like some kind of like, crazed kind of feeling about whether or not you can exchange things, if you can get things in or if you can get things out. Don't wait until that time happens. If you know there's something you want to sell, get prepared to sell it. If you know there's something you want to buy, make sure you have everything in order. That's it. And even then, this is that moment where everybody's getting excited for getting in, but nobody realizes that you've got another 4 years before we have that next, halving. And it's going to end up, it's going to be a wild ride. You're going to see stuff kind of go all over the place. A lot of the people who are invested in that are invested in that because they understand and they trust the way that whole network works, because it is about transparency, because it is about freedom and independence. And like a lot of people are in it for the long haul, and they're not really worrying about the ups and downs in the midterm. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. A day where you may change your mind in terms of your health and wellness, a day where you may notice a shift in terms of how you're talking to yourself, a day where there is definitely going to be some drama in terms of communication. So watch for that. Then we're going to see Venus at 19, which to the naked eye doesn't seem like a big deal, but to me it is, because it's reactivating the eclipse, okay? So if you think about the 8th of April, which we have not had yet, we're going to have a solar eclipse at 19 degrees, exactly conjunct Chiron. So it's bringing all of us to this awareness of something we need to heal over the next 4 years. So when Venus, ruler of the South Node, comes through and hits this degree, it's like basically saying, hey, Here's now how we heal this issue, right? Especially because it's coming into conjunction with Chiron. Venus-Chiron transits are a funny thing. You know, a lot of people who have that natally, Venus in conjunction to Chiron or in a square or a hard aspect, may feel like love hurts. And it may feel like, you know, you always get wounded in relationships or wounded in love. But Venus is coming in with like the bandages, you know, she's coming in to heal. She's coming in to like kiss all the boo-boos and the finger cuts and all that stuff, to be able to kind of heal that wound. And so it does mean that love can heal all. Love can conquer all. Self-love and compassion is so incredibly important. Being kind to yourself to be able to overcome some of the struggles that you've been having in the area of Aries. This can be also the, you know, healing of mankind, the healing when it comes to our relationship to, you know, fellow man. But definitely Venus reactivating the eclipse on the 21st, and then coming into conjunction with Chiron, which is only going to happen, I think, the next day. On the 21st, yeah, so it's around the same day, that we are definitely deep in our healing. And what are we healing at 20 degrees? Well, we're healing through transformation, change, rebirth. You know, learning to accept new things. And still Mars, you know, in Pisces, trapped now between Saturn and Neptune. This is where I think a lot of people are going to be realizing that some of the stuff that's going to be going down, where you're hearing things like bridges collapsing or, you know, having issues with water or dam or transportation or storms, is going to make some people kind of freak out because they're going to be like, I can't get certain things. There's going to be shortages of stuff. We're already starting to see it with some food and some other things. Like some people are really going to start to kind of realize and recognize, whoa, this is a bigger problem because it's limiting my ability to get what I want. Venus can be luxury goods. Venus can be food. It can also be jewelry. It can be anything that's considered to be like, you know, valuable. So a lot of people, I think, are going to be looking around being like, I can't get the things that I need. If we continue to see some of these similar issues, which are seeming to kind of come up with the Mars-Saturn-Neptune conjunction. Yes, love hurts, but also it doesn't mean that that's a reason to turn our hearts off to love or close ourselves away from other people. This is a time to really embrace something that's changing, to be willing to do the necessary work to heal ourselves, so that way in turn we can better relate to other people. Something you'll also see is more so the next day, but Venus will receive an opposition from the moon. And I think that's going to trigger this as well on the 22nd. South node moon, moon in opposition to Venus, Venus conjunct Chiron. You're going to feel that into the 22nd because that's going to be some relational issues. All right, and then we're going to have, actually, let's talk about that. What's the Sabian symbol for that? So 20 of Aries would be 21. That seems pretty prominent. And I think a lot of it's about clearing relationship stuff on the 21st, 22nd. So Aries 21. Also very close to the Cazimi degree because we're going to see the Cazimi at 22. They're all getting lit up. Okay, Aries 21. Pugilist entering the ring. The keyword is exertion. The theme is the prize fighter. The symbol speaks to the belief that self's invincibility on all levels, a natural immunity to criticism, and a willingness to risk. The image of a pugilist entering the ring is the figure of a boxer or fist fighter to conceptualize the readiness to attack or defend a position in public. It also alludes to a need to be actively involved in life where the action is. On a practical level, the symbol can indicate a very forceful, dominant personality that particularly enjoys controversy and challenge. At its highest, the symbol represents self-assertion, courage, and the willingness to fight for rights and principles. Watch for foolhardiness and daredevil antics or achievement of goals through crude bully tactics or aggressive takeovers. Today, the accent is on opposition, controversy, and conflict. Strong feelings may be expressed. Pride and fear in losing position of some kind can result in arguments, differences of opinion over who is the best or who is right and wrong. Your greatest advantage lies in looking at things from other fellows' point of view and listening carefully to what they have to say so you can understand where he's coming from. Guard against being oversensitive and defensive or critical of your fellows. This is not a good time to order others around or issue ultimatums. Stepping stones are self-confidence, self-assertion, courage, force, competition, activity, conflict, or defense. Where being defensive doesn't get us anywhere, right? It's not getting us anywhere. We're just being argumentative, like we're alienating and shutting ourselves off from that opportunity to relate to others. It's okay not to agree. We can disagree. But the most important thing is, are we able to be diplomatic with one another? Are we able to have conversations? It's so sad to see what's happened in recent years where it's like, there are family members that won't talk to each other because of political beliefs or over what happened over COVID, or, you know, people who just want to sit down to dinner and argue about the state of the world with other people and play the blame game rather than realizing that really it's us against the world, right? It's like there are things going on out there that I really feel like are intentionally being kind of stirred up to create conflict and division within partnerships, within allies, within marriages, within families. And it's just so important, I think, to not be defensive during this particular transit. You know, like relationships are supposed to be like a safe space. It's supposed to be a space that gives you shelter from the drama and the chaos of the world. It's supposed to be what brings us pleasure and security and some sense of feeling grounded and protected, right? So we should not be at war with ourselves. We should not be at war with other people. We need to kind of take a step back and really look at this and go, where are we arguing over trivial things when we really should be focused on the bigger picture? I think. But yeah, definitely some people are going to be putting on their boxing gloves, I think, with that particular degree. All right, and then last but not least, we will see Venus all the way up until the 29th in the sign of Aries. Now, one thing you're going to want to watch is when Venus is still in Aries. Will Mars be? Oh, I guess maybe not. Let's see. I thought there was like a slight time where they were both in the same degree. I guess not. Never mind. So on the 29th, Venus will leave Aries and move into Taurus. Okay, so that'll be that critical 29 degrees. Venus at 29, Mars at 29. Okay, so this is going to be a significant turning point. I take back what I said. It looks like Venus will enter into Taurus and Mars will then enter into Aries. And it looks like that's going to be happening on the 30th, the very next day. We will talk all about Venus in Taurus in another video as we get closer to that. I'm also going to do a planetary or like a sign profile on Taurus, and then I'm going to talk to you guys about Venus and the second house. I'm doing that for all of the 12 signs. If you guys didn't already catch the ones that I did on Aries in the first house, make sure you subscribe so you can watch that. Let me take you guys through the 12 rising signs real quick, talk about where Venus is going to be going, where she's bringing you pleasure, but also a need to kind of tap into your own self-love in a certain area of your chart. And as a reminder, Aries, sun, moon, and rising, you guys are being blessed with this Venus transit. It is good for you. Don't worry. Equally, my Taurus and my Libra risings, you guys really want to pay attention to this particular transit because it's going to be really affecting you. When Venus changes signs, you feel it, right? So let's do this. I'll be using the whole sign method. If you guys want, you guys can use whole sign or Placidus, whichever you prefer. But for the sake of these videos, I always do it on whole sign because I want it to be able to relate to everybody as easily as possible. So let's start with my Aries and Aries risings. Okay. So you guys are having Venus come into your sign, all right? So Venus is blessing you. Venus rules your personal finances, resources, and your relationships. And Venus is going to be crossing your ascendant if you're an Aries rising. This is in your first house. So Venus in Aries in the first house basically is bringing much more of an assertive and independent approach to your relationships and self-expression. You may feel more confident and bold in your interactions with other people. Now, looking at this transit, one thing that I would say is that it's more about how you're investing in yourself. Something about your style might be changing. You know, obviously you have a retrograde here, so some of you guys are learning to heal yourself. You're being, you know, kinder to yourselves. Maybe you're reassessing something that you're going to change about your body or your appearance. It is a time where I think if you're applying that sense of focusing on self-love and taking care of yourself better, you'll see at the end of like the solar eclipse and the retrograde at the end of this month that you're stronger, happier, healthier, and more vibrant. That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting with this Venus transit that you're going to be having. So hopefully that's helpful for you, Aries. Snap a selfie with this transit, especially if it's in your first house. If it's your sun or moon, you'll still see some of the benefits, but I think the rising sign is definitely for bringing more kind of beauty to your appearance. We've got Taurus and Taurus rising. Obviously, Taurus, you are ruled by Venus. So this transit is really important. Venus rules your physical body and your appearance. It also has connections to your sixth house of health and wellness. So Venus moving into your 12th house, right? This is all about basically bringing much more of like an assertive and independent approach to spirituality and personal transformation. You may feel more inclined to explore your inner world and assert your spiritual beliefs. Now, wherever Venus goes is where you are. So what is the 12th house? Sanctuaries, hospitals, prisons, healing centers, private fitness centers, you know, anywhere where you're getting privacy, or maybe it's even your bedroom. I could see the 12th house as your bedroom where you're spending more time there. There is this feeling as we're coming into Taurus season at the end of the month that there is like some big wrapping up that has to happen for you on a spiritual or subconscious level before you have this like brand new beginning in Taurus season as all these planets move into your first house. You might be feeling like you're in your head a little bit, and I feel like this would be a really good time to be finding ways to better support your physical and also your mental, emotional health. So Aries is something you initiate. So it's like, I need to go to the spa, or I need to work out, or I need to go for a walk, or I need to go and talk to a therapist. Anything like that can come up that can be really helpful for you. And it does seem to indicate that it's about finding balance and more harmony within your routine. So that way you're feeling more confident as you move forward into your birthday season. Hopefully that's helpful for you, Taurus. We have got Gemini and Gemini rising. You're going to be experiencing Venus moving through Aries in your natal 11th house. So for you, Gemini, Aries moving through the 11th house is about being assertive and active and independent when it comes to your approach to friendships and social connections. You may feel more inclined to assert your individuality within your social circles and pursue new friendships. I love this for you, especially because Venus has connections to your 5th house of your talents and joy and creativity. This is about sharing what you can do with others. So it might mean that you're collaborating with a group, or you're just being more social and you're going to parties and gatherings and get-togethers. Venus also connects to your 12th house. So it can mean that you're like joining spiritual groups or circles. Maybe you're deciding that you want to join groups online, or some kind of like course or class that you're doing with other people. It'd be a great time to connect with like-minded people who are wanting to be active, or they have some kind of focus on creativity, performance, or the arts. We've got Cancer and Cancer rising. You're going to be experiencing Venus's transit through your 10th house of your career. This is big for you, Cancer. So when Venus goes through the 10th house, it's going to bring more relational things in the workplace, okay? Can love be found at work? Sure, yes, you could. But you can also find a new job that you fall in love with. You could have better relationships with superiors and people at work as well. And this is about being more assertive and independent when it comes to approaching your career and your reputation. I know for a lot of you guys, this feels like it's up in the air right now, but I feel like Venus coming in might provide some kind of support from a woman at work or some kind of guidance. Now, Venus also deals with your 4th house of home and family. So there can be something going on where you're changing something about your relationship to one of your parents, or it's possible that you are thinking more about working with like a new group of people. Maybe you're making new friends at work, or maybe a friend is helping you get employed and you're moving into like a new type of like career. And it's something that might involve beauty or fashion or, floral related things or design related things. And somehow some kind of connection through another person or to another group brings you some opportunity when it comes to your professional life. Good luck, Cancer. We've got Leo and Leo rising. You'll experience Venus transiting your natal 9th house, and it's a fellow sister fire sign. So this is like a really great transit for the fire signs. I think with Venus going through your 9th house, this is about bringing opportunities for connections to relationships at a distance, traveling. This can also be where you're finding pleasure in studying or, like taking a course or a certification. This can be about some relationship that's developing with a foreigner or with like a mentor of some sorts. And this is about really finding that you're becoming more passionate about travel, education, and personal growth, and you're more inclined to take risks and pursue new things when it comes to your 9th house. Well, Venus rules the 3rd house of communication, language, and travel and education, and it also is connected to your career. So likely you're finding ways to like learn about new techniques or certifications, or maybe you're kind of deciding you want to get into teaching, or you're learning about importing and exporting, or you're learning about marketing. And maybe it means that you're really focusing on like, getting the word out about your product or about your book, or maybe it means that you're learning like a new language because you're traveling to a new place, right? You're more willing maybe to go a little bit further for love or for education in this sense. And I think that with the North Node being there, it's saying like, you may travel for the first time by yourself and realize how much you like it, because Aries is what you do on your own. Or you may decide that you want to go back to school and get a diploma, and it's something that you find very valuable because it's something that may increase the likelihood of you, having some kind of expansion in your career. Good luck. We've got Virgo and Virgo rising. You're going to be experiencing Venus's transit through Aries in your natal 8th house. This is an interesting transit for you, Virgo, because the 8th house is a very intense, a very passionate, very private kind of space. And when Venus goes through the 8th house, or when any planet goes through the 8th house, there is a pretty significant transformation. So I kind of see like the planet kind of going to Hades and coming back up and being reborn. That's the energy of the 8th house in Scorpio. So when Venus goes through here, you're becoming more focused on taking action when it comes to intimacy and shared resources. You may feel the need to assert your independence and take control of your financial or emotional entanglements. 8th house is things like debt, loans, relationship that you have with another person, and money. Venus rules your 2nd house. So I could see this is like a time where you're like reassessing like, what's mine and what's theirs. And the North Node is going through the 8th house, so it's bringing you more, which means like some of you guys may get a tax refund, an inheritance. You might have a sudden windfall, an insurance payout. And Venus's connection to the 2nd and the 9th house may mean that like maybe miraculously your student loans are paid. Maybe miraculously, somebody offers to pay to take you on a trip. Maybe something comes through and you get a loan so that way you can go and continue your education. But there is some entanglements here with this Mercury retrograde. There's something going on where you're reassessing and kind of going through and trying to figure out like what is mine is what is yours. When this is over and Venus goes into Taurus and it starts kind of trining your sun, moon, or rising, I do feel like it's going to bring you some sense of fulfillment and joy and some kind of like big growth period that you may have with your education or within a relationship. But right now there's a lot of cleaning out all of like the skeletons in the closet and learning how to get to the bottom of an issue with intimacy, finances, or vulnerability. Good luck. We've got Libra and Libra rising. You are ruled by Venus, Libra. So this transit is going to impact you and Taurus pretty strongly. Having Venus go through the 7th house, even though it's moving through a sign that it's a little bit uncomfortable, is actually pretty good for you, Libra, because Venus is at home in the 7th house. That's where she blesses you with some kind of relationship. There can be a new counselor, a therapist, an astrologer. There could be a new friend or a new romantic partner that can come into your life. So when Venus goes through Aries in the 7th house, you may find that you, because you're Venus, are becoming more independent and assertive when it comes to relationships. You may find that You're more inclined to assert your needs and your desires to partners more. Now, Venus also has connections to your 8th house. So it might mean that you're becoming more vocal about the fact that you want more sex, you want more intimacy, you want more money, you want more vulnerability. And you're really communicating that, I think, especially with Mercury going retrograde. Now, the flip side is if you're one of these Libras who are single, it might mean that it brings somebody into your life. It might be a really intense connection and it might start up very quickly. Equally, you may bring somebody in who's like a coach or like a dating coach, a love coach, a financial coach, or somebody who is like helping you when it comes to your 8th house things. So if you're like wanting to go to therapy or deal with trauma, if you're wanting to heal something, if you're looking for an investment advisor, Venus going through the 7th house can bring that to you as well. And with all this action in the 7th house, it can also be about your marketplace. So you might be bringing in more clients. You might get more visibility. You might have people coming in who are interested in what you have to offer. With the North Node there, it can also provide you with some kind of business relationship, especially considering Mars is the dispositor and it's in your 6th. So you might bring in a personal assistant. You can bring in like a new health coach. You can bring in somebody who can help manage your day-to-day routine. And if you need some kind of legal support or legal aid or a mediator or a lawyer, this can be brought in for you too. But for the most part, you're Venus. So this is about you being more kind of active and more social. So if you feel like you have been kind of out of the social bubble for a while, it looks like that's going to kind of come back up. Good luck, Libra. We've got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. You'll be experiencing Venus transiting Aries in your natal 6th house. For you, Scorpio, this is interesting because, you know, Venus is not entirely thrilled being in the 6th house, nor does she perform very, very well in Aries. So I could definitely see some Scorpio and Scorpio risings having a little bit more of a difficult time with this transit. So there's pros and cons to it. I think the pros are that Venus is going to have you being a lot more active when it comes to your approach to your daily routines. So you may feel like you need to take charge of your work and make improvements to your daily habits. So it can be how you're working, how you're eating, if you're working out, your sleep schedule, that stuff. But equally, it can mean that, you know, you're realizing that part of self-care is physical wellness and nutrition, and that you're like, okay, I have to do this work. Venus rules your 12th house of your subconscious and things that are kind of hidden. So you might kind of start to see where your emotions or your sleep habits actually play a pretty significant role in how you're working or sleeping or eating or drinking. And with the retrograde here, a lot of Scorpio risings are really kind of saying like, I want to quit doing something. You know, I want to heal my relationship to my body, or I want to heal something about my digestion, or I want to cut a bad habit out, especially with the Mercury retrograde. Really great time for like a detox, especially because Venus rules your 7th house as well. So you may feel like your partners are involved in some way in like helping you when it comes to making a change in your health or your fitness or your diet. You can have a spouse that's like, you're not drinking, or, you know, a partner that's like, hey, we're working out together, or, you know, we're quitting smoking. These things can come up. And they may be a little bossy in the midst of this transit, or you might have like a coach or a trainer that's like really on you about making these changes. And yes, there can be some rumbles, I think, with relationships as well, but Venus going through the 6th house teaches you that love requires work. So it does mean that you have to do work in your relationships, and you've got this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction coming up. So there is about to be an exceptional amount of growth in relationships for Scorpio risings, single or partnered. You're going to see there's about to be like a really, really, really big turning point in this next month. And I think it requires you very personally to get involved and kind of get things in order to be able to make this happen. Good luck, Scorpio. We have Sag and Sag rising. You'll be experiencing Venus's transit through Aries in your natal 5th house. For you, Sagittarius, this is a fire sign, so it's going to trine your sun, moon, or rising, so it's beneficial for you. When it goes to your 5th house, this is a great place for Venus because it is about relationships and falling in love and having fun and being passionate and adventurous and anything that is connected to romance and creativity. So you may feel that you're more inclined to take risks in your love life and pursue new creative endeavors. I think with a retrograde here and a solar eclipse here, this is about pleasure. This is about enjoying yourself. This is about doing what comes naturally to you. It can mean that you're, creating as a hobby. It can mean that you're focusing on your children or on dating or on romance. Venus has connections to the 11th house, so it does mean that it's somehow connected to your friends or your goals, the goals that you may have within a relationship. It may mean that, you have friends that are coming to connect with you, coming to play. And maybe you're like the ringleader where you're kind of like initiating what's about to be like some new playtime or some new endeavors, something that you're sharing with a group. Venus also has connections to your 6th house of work and routine. So it seems to me that when it comes to your workspace or daily routine, you're trying to find ways to have fun with what you're doing. You're trying to show your talent. So maybe you're reorganizing a space and you want to show people how you do it. Or maybe you're, starting a new hobby or starting a new like fitness or, kind of like motivation plan. And you want to show people like how you're doing this. And you kind of put it, out onto Instagram or on some kind of social media platform so people can see what you're actually actively doing. And it may mean that you have to, be willing to help and assist those that you love. So it can be a romantic partner, it could be a pet, it could be a child. There's a lot of energy about giving to something that you love doing. And that's going to be the whole theme of the month of April going into May. I love that for Sag. You guys have some really fun transits in the next month. We have Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You'll be experiencing Venus's transit through the sign of Aries in your natal 4th house. For you, Capricorn, this is about home and family, okay? Where you live, what it looks like, how it feels. Venus going through Aries in this part of your chart is going to have you being more assertive when it comes to your home and your family life. You may feel like you need to assert your independence within your family or make changes to your living space. Equally, a female relative can come and stay with you or visit you in some way. Venus is connected to your 10th house of career and reputation, and it also has connections to your 5th house of creativity and self-expression. I feel like this can bring some of you guys like going and staying with female relatives and like helping them with the home situation. It may mean that you're having to make improvements or changes to your home because of your children. So maybe you're preparing for them to come and visit, or if you're actually going to have a kid, it means that you're getting something in order for that. It may mean that you're kind of stepping away from responsibility at work because you're becoming more focused with what's going on in the home base. I love Venus in the 4th house for like designing things, although not during a retrograde. So if you're like picking out wallpaper and paint colors for your house or looking at furniture, no. Use the retrograde to reimagine what your space looks like. Go and get swatches, put a couple pieces, together, or put a couple like swatches on the wall and see what looks good for paint. It can also mean that you're focusing on trying to find a home or a home space that brings you pleasure. Maybe it means that you're trying to find some creative ways to be able to work from home. So that's the other way I could look at it. And you're like, okay, I get the green light from a boss or somebody because of a family or a home related situation for you to be, working from home, and maybe that's more comfortable. And when this Mercury retrograde is over, you may find that you actually really like spending more time at home or with your family than you anticipated. And especially because it's going to be conjunct the North Node. I think that that's kind of teaching you that, you can do everything that you need to do from another home base if necessary. Good luck. We've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You're going to experience Venus's transit through Aries in your natal 3rd house. For you, Aquarius, this is all about communication. And I think that you become very passionate in how you communicate and talk about things. You might feel a little bit more assertive or direct with your communication style, and you're more inclined to share your thoughts and your opinions with other people about what you love. Now, Venus rules your 4th house of home and family, and it also has connections to your 9th house of beliefs. So likely you're like kind of like the motivator for your family, and you're like, okay, this is what we got to do, and like this is how we plan a trip, or like this is what we're doing, like getting together in the home. Like you're the person who's sending the invitations. You're the person who is making the phone calls, and you're letting people know, hey, come over, you're invited. There's lots of excitement that's going to start happening with Jupiter and Uranus in your 4th house in this next month. So likely you're communicating and talking to people about your home base, your neighborhood. Maybe you're talking to siblings or relatives. It is possible some of you guys are also considering moving, or you're discussing moving further away because of Venus's connection to the 9th. Venus finds pleasure here. So reading books, listening to podcasts, things that are about I think self-improvement. I think you guys may really benefit from listening to some motivational speakers and people who can be talking about ways that you can be changing your life every day. And I would say listen to something every morning, go for a walk. And it can be short. It doesn't need to be long. You can listen to something that's going to be quick, but maybe writing your intentions and affirmations can be a really positive way to start your day, so you can kind of get with the flow of like some of these changes that are going to be coming in your home life. And we have Pisces and Pisces rising. For you guys, Venus is going to be transiting the sign of Aries in your natal 2nd house. Venus is very happy being in the 2nd house. It's naturally tied to like a Taurus energy, so it feels at home. So I think it's going to perform very well for you guys. Having Venus in the 2nd house is going to have you feeling a little impulsive, okay? So be careful with your spending, which I would say anyway with Mercury retrograde. But there can be impulsive spending and a desire for financial independence and having things. Be mindful of your financial decisions at this time, because I think Venus and Aries can burn a hole in your pocket here. And Venus is connected to the 8th house, which is about other people's money or debt. So when the North Node is in the 2nd house, we want more of something. So we're like, I want more of what other people have. You can rack up a credit card bill, but also there can be a sense of like realizing something, or maybe you find something that's very valuable during the retrograde that you didn't realize that you needed or you wanted. Maybe your style changes during this time. It can also be a time where money is coming back to you because Mercury will retrograde conjunct Venus here. So if a coworker owes you money, if an ex-partner owes you money, if somebody has to give you a refund or an exchange of some kind, likely that retrograde will bring you resources. But Venus, I think in the 2nd house here is nice. There's a lot of realizing your own personal worth, your value. And learning, I think, because of Venus's connection to your 3rd house, how to communicate your needs, how to say, this is what, I charge, or this is how much I think that this is worth, and like learning how to kind of, bargain with other people and find ways to actually increase your income. So you can be a little bit more, I think, like persuasive in how you communicate when it comes to financial and money matters, because that North Node wants as much as it can get. So I think that you're learning that you need to have better boundaries and you need to be kind of sticking up for yourself and telling people what it is that you need, so you get your bottom line met. I hope that was helpful for you guys in giving you some more insight on this Venus and Aries transit. It's definitely going to be quite a doozy as it's reactivating some of these retrograde and eclipse energies. So make sure you check the link in the descriptions below. There's all kinds of information. I'll put the dates there, and also you guys can find my other links that will take you to my astrology and tarot courses. I teach tarot and astrology one-on-one. You can check out my website at beyondtheveiltarot.com if you want to take a look at those, or my personal astrology calendars, or book a session with me. I see clients full-time as a private astrologer, so I talk about natal charts, transits, the whole 9 yards. So if you want to get your chart done, or you want to get a reading for your birthday, check that out. I'm happy to read for you. And just as a reminder, we're going to be here tomorrow live, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Check the community tab. We're putting it out early. It's going to be busy. We're going to be doing solar eclipse readings. So if you want to know what the solar eclipse means for you and your chart, go and sign up early. And we're going to see you here on Friday live on the channel, where we take a look at your transits and we hang out and celebrate just prior to this solar eclipse in Aries. Leave me your comments below. I always appreciate hearing from you guys, especially if you have a natal Venus in Aries or Venus in the 1st house, or if you have Venus conjunct the North Node. I'd love to hear from you guys and your hot takes on these particular aspects. And don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Sharing is caring. It helps my channel grow. Until next time, I'll catch you guys all back here on Friday. Enjoy your Venus transit. I'll see you all very soon. Take care.